Welcome to Adam and Kate
+8.
plus Madeline.
Plus, yeah.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. Would you like to introduce yourself, or I can?
I wanna hear your introduction. It's probably better than mine. It's a
Okay,
test.
Okay.
it's a test. So, this is Madeline. I know her from Hardcore Hotline on Instagram, which is one of the best comedy skit things I've seen about underground music ever. She does other things too that I'm not fully aware of or privy to. Um, but part of why she's here, so she can talk about those things.
Yeah.
Unveil the mysteries. That was excellent. Yes.
Thank you, babe. Yeah,
But
let's get into it. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
right on. I appreciate you so much for taking the time. We just want to,
Yeah, thanks for asking.
yeah. First, could I ask like what your connection is with hardcore? Um, like uh, we know you like you came on the show via Adam, who knows you
Mhm,
from like mutual friends,
mhm.
c- similar circles, but I know nothing. So yeah, please talk. Like, what is your connection? What do you do?
Yeah. So, I have been, like all of us, going to hardcore shows since I was 14 years old. Some punk shows and other interesting shows. I grew up in Miami, so we had all kinds of very interesting shows. Of course, I also did go to new metal concerts because how are you 14 years old without seeing Limp Bizkit?
True, true. One of my very first shows was POD. So
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so I was able to go to a lot of festivals growing up, anywhere from Warped Tour to Ozfest to our local like Zeta Fest and everything like that, if anyone knows it from that far off. But it always had a big mix of bands, and I was always used to going to festivals, and my parents trusted me to be good at festivals, and I always was because I was a fucking nerd. But yeah, as I started getting older, I started to become an adult and I started to
that's
focus
usually
on,
how time works.
yeah, and I started to focus on different things and I didn't have a lot of time to go to shows. I also, I lived in North Carolina. I lived in Chicago for a while. I am back in North Carolina now. And I didn't really know where to go or like what to do. And it was just easier to just kind of like just stay home. Um, and then when the pandemic hit, it became even easier to stay home, but it also became easier to remember things that like I really enjoyed doing, and I really enjoyed going to shows, and I really liked listening to these hardcore bands. And of course, uh, 2018, 2019, Furnace Fest came back and it reminded me of, going to Crazy Fest back in the day. And I had never been to Furnace Fest or
Yes.
anything like that. Um, yeah, did go to Crazy Fest, you know, and I was like, I kind of want to do this again. And I didn't know anybody who would want to go with me. And I just was like, I'm just going to go by myself. And since then, since I've started to, really integrate myself more in not just like the hardcore scene near me, but like branching out and meeting people from all over and like making friends and everything. I realized like this is something that I really missed. Not just having friends that will sit in the back and cross their arms and like kind of head nod sometimes, but like just kind of having those people who remember what things were like, and we were always kind of the fucking nerd kids. So let's be fucking nerd adults and go to a hardcore show. Um,
Hell
But
yeah.
because I would be going to more hardcore shows, I would be in more, internet communities and I'd see things on Instagram and I was starting to see a lot of patterns. And I
Mm.
was like, it'd be really funny is if there was like a hotline for hardcore music that people could call to, and they could call with like their complaints or anything else that they need to talk to that's hardcore related. And that's when Hardcore Hotline started to appear.
It it is it's so good. If you, dear listener, have not checked this out, like, please do. Painfully accurate. Just yeah. I One thing I love about it is that like hardcore tends to be like very can be kind of self-serious, and like I want I want more people to be able to be say like, hey, this thing that we all love is also inherently goofy.
Like it's kind of silly. Like
It's a
wait,
little
we all
silly.
get in a circle and like they swing their arms around and that's supposed to show like that you like the band a lot. Like that's if you look at it from that context, that's kind of crazy. But when you see it during a show, you're like, "Whoa, that's so
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah, every once in a while, like one of the like some video from a hardcore show will break containment and end up on like Barstool or like one of those fucking websites, and like it's always there's always 1,000 chodes who are like, "What the fuck is this shit?" And like while those people are annoying, like they're also not wrong.
They're not
Like
wrong. Yeah.
there's a bunch of fully grown people fighting the good fight against what must assume are invisible ninjas. Like
Yeah, like they're
it,
they're going for it.
yeah. um, and like the music itself is sort of like so you know how people can sing. It's like yeah, but what if instead I screamed really loud for a
Yeah.
long time?
Yeah, or just kind of like talked with a little bit of rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
you
Barked,
know.
you know.
Yeah, yeah,
I
things
do.
like that.
I enjoy a good bark. One of the things about Hardcore Hotline that I find, other than like it being very like not only tongue in cheek, but being very just right on the fucking button, is the delivery and the voice that you use. Like I feel like I'm going to hardcore HR, and the pace and everything is like it's like you're in customer service hell. How did you develop that from when you first like, okay, I'm gonna make this a thing?
Um, yeah, so it started because um I was seeing a lot of people complaining about lineups and different parts of festivals and bands that are playing, and all of it was pretty valid. But I was like, these guys should call a hotline. And I thankfully I don't work customer service anymore, but I had enough to where you kind of have your customer service voice. Um, and it evolved to just because, and it's funny because I can turn it on and off, but also if I'm like interviewing a band, I have to warn them that the voice that they hear, like the voice that I'm using now, is not the voice that they're going to hear in just a few minutes. And that is always the first thing that throws them. And then, like, um, when I was talking to whatever his name is from Bury or Dead, I was like,
Matt.
Mark, yeah. Um, but that's the other
Kyle.
thing is that I I always call them by different names. But we had to stop after a minute because his connection was going out and I was like, "Oh, your connection is going out." And he was like, "You move so fast. He was like, I thought I was prepared. I am not prepared. And, but he meant it like in a good way. Yeah, no, Matt was great. He's one of my favorite guests, and just the nicest man. But yeah, so it catches people off guard because I'll be talking to them and I'm like, yeah, and if I say something that is just like really not okay with you, please tell me. And they're just like, absolutely. And then I'm like, hi. So anyway, um, and I learned that I have to go fast because their reactions will catch up later. Um, and as they're answering, they'll be like, did she just call me caterpillar? Um, which you can see Joe Mustin, he 100%, he would sit there and he'd be like, wait, what? But yeah, I have to go fast because what if you were to watch all of the interviews in a row, you would very quickly realize that I ask the same 5 questions every time.
Mm.
It's the same 5 questions of just asking them in different ways. It's, who are you? Why are you here? Why do you continue to make music? Who is the person you hate the most? Why is tour terrible? I guess that's 6 questions, but that's really it. But but at the end of the day, these guys are used to talking about, oh, what are the meanings behind your lyric? Oh, what is, when you wrote this? Like I am so bored with band interviews. I don't need to hear
Yeah.
for the thousandth time why the album that they wrote 20 years ago meant this, this, and this, and now it means this, this, and this. Like, I get it. It's the human experience. Ugh. Who do you hate and why are they your enemy? Tell me. Like, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Who is your enemy? Tell me. What city don't you like? Um,
We're stealing all of this. I just want you to know that we're stealing all of this right now.
yeah, it's it's
One of
it's
the I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, no, no. I actually didn't have anything done that with.
Because one of the stated we're brand new at this. We're like 15 episodes in at this point,
Yeah,
something like that.
15, but one will never become again. Missing episode
Right.
0.
Yeah. We have an episode 0 that like everything was, it's why you do those. It's a trial run,
Yeah,
but one of the stated goals for this was like we would really like to get people on and talk to them about things that they don't usually get to talk about.
mm,
Because right, like every band interview tends to go down like the same 3 things. You know, talk about your new album, talk about the album that everyone loves, you know, and then maybe one or two other like peripheral things, but you know, it, yeah, that's really
yeah,
cool. Um, so are the forgive my ignorance here, but the band interviews you're doing them is that just for like is Hardcore Hotline a thing that you're also doing interviews through, or is there like a separate thing that the interviews are done?
no,
Does that make
I
sense?
just,
Do you understand the
yeah,
question?
no, I just do them for funsies on Hardcore Hotline. Like, I have less than
That's really
5,000
cool.
followers. No one is getting any, like, like I interviewed Shane Told. He's not getting more fans because Hardcore Hotline interviewed him. He's just doing it for giggles, for fun. Because what are we here for if not for fun? Also a super nice guy. Um, but no, I mean, one thing that I have come across in the last year and a half or so, I stopped making as many videos and people were asking like what was going on with it. Was I still doing it? I said, yeah, I just I now have to, like, before I would just like message someone, and I'm actually not very good at messaging bands to ask because it's also kind of awkward to say, "Hey, do you want to come on my interview series where I'm going to dunk on you for 20 minutes?" Um, but some of them are like, "Yes." Um, but it's now it's become, "Hey, can I dunk on you for 20 minutes?" Well, let me check with my manager, let me check with my agent.
Ew.
Um, they want to, okay, well, they said no because you're not going to be advertising our newest record. It's because you don't have enough followers. It's because this, and this. And I'm just like, that's all valid. Like, if those are the types of interviews you want to do, my feelings aren't hurt. Um, I have had some people reach out and ask, and I do need to get back to them. I had like, personal things going on that I was like, oh, oops. Um, but I have found that because of that, like talking to bands who have less than 1,000 Instagram followers is the way to go. Not just because they're like, yes, we'll interview with anybody, but because they are still, they're not jaded. They're not
Hmm.
like hustling. They're just some guys or girls or theys or whatever, just being like, hey, can we get together and make some music? And hey, this girl said that she'll interview us. Like, let's just have fun with it. Like, let's just do it. Um, and those are always the best ones. Like, anytime that I get on and I realize that the person is like, so when are we going to talk about my new music? I have to be like, we're not doing this. Like, this isn't fun. So I have decided to change up my interviews so that they're maybe 15 minutes max. And I'm changing it so that if someone is coming through or I'm going to be at a show, I'd rather do it in person. So that I can just like sit there with them and, they can see and they can tell from my body language that like the interview is not, and I hope this comes across, but the interviews are never like gotchas and they're never like cruel. They're like
Yeah,
wholesome, goofy fun. Like, let's be in this together,
I think
you
that's the
know?
right energy for sure.
Yeah. So like they can kind of get that from me and be like, okay, we're just here for like funsies.
Yeah.
So I've kind of done that. And then I'm making less videos, but luckily a few of my short videos went viral. So now my other videos pop up more. And so I get a lot more followers from those. But I find that if I oversaturate with Hardcore Hotline, people are going to be like, we get it.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, but I don't use any like social media
Hmm.
things. I don't, advertise. I don't do sponsored posts or anything like that. I just kind of vibe and hope things work out. And if people like it, that's awesome. And if they don't, then they tell me about it in the comments.
Yeah. That's kind of the way that we're approaching this too. Just like one, it's like I work at a hospital. I'm a patient advocate there. Like
Hmm.
it's an intense job to do. So
Yeah.
like I don't to then turn around and be like, "All right, I got to hustle and like get like, you know, put a bunch of posts up to drive people towards my content." Just it feels like another job that I don't want to have. Like
Yeah.
I did this because I was fun to talk about music with my friend, you know?
Yeah. 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 And yeah. And for a minute, Hardcore Hotline was feeling like a weird job. And I was like,
Mm.
let's not do this. This is just supposed to be
Yeah, this
whatever
is
it
for haha
is.
times.
Yeah. Yeah. But luckily, I did. The punk cellist, he is a friend of mine, and I asked him if he would be my first interview so that I could get a feel for things. So luckily he knew me and he knew what the whole thing was. And so that was really good practice. So that when I did interview, after a while, guys like, Shane Told or Nick from Bayside or something like that, then I was like, okay, I know what to say and I know what to do.
have you had, so in the spirit of the questions that you asked, have you had any interviews that just absolutely sucked and you hated it and you needed it to stop and
Um, I had one interview, and I will never say who the band is out of respect for them, which sounds weird,
fair?
but I never will. Um, I it was, and I will take like partial blame for it. I had it was through like a an ad company, like I don't know how to explain them. I'm sure someone else does, but like they send out, hey, do you want to interview this band about their album or something like that? And I happened to
Publicist?
end up, maybe, I happened
Street
to end up,
team.
yeah, I happened to end up on their email list. And I had a couple of
Okay.
interviews with bands from it, and I was like, I don't think these guys know what's going on. So I got a last email, and I was like, okay, like I'll see. And that was the last one that I did with those guys, because I was like, this is very clearly not at all what these guys wanted, which is fair. My cats are, there's another cat outside of the window.
I
Mm,
get it.
I'm gonna pause 1 second.
All right.
take your time.
I get that. I got 6 of them. They're fucking dickheads. I absolutely get it. Oh, dude, this has been fun so far.
I had messaged the guy, and I was like, hey, they told me that it was okay to contact you. Um, you know, if you want to look at my social media and agree, that would be great, but no pressure. Nowadays, when I message a band, I try and make it funny, and I say, if you're not into it, that's okay. I'll just cry. Which I will give it up to Haywire. They actually responded to me and they said, hi, we don't do interviews. Please don't cry. And I was like, good for you. You don't do interviews.
Ooh,
Um, but they actually did
Please
respond, which
don't.
was quite nice. And I told them that, and they were like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah. But anyway, he was like, no, it's fine. So when we got on, and I was like, hey, did you see it? And he was like, yeah, you're just going to be kind of, riffing a little bit. I could tell very quickly that like this was not something he was into. So I really
Mm-hmm.
tried to like be a little bit more serious. But he did politely let me know, like, I don't want anything to do with this interview, like a day later. And I just said, I get it. I will never put out the interview. I will never, say anything or anything like that. And he did check my stories for a few days after that. I think maybe just to see if I was, saying anything. And I hope that like that was a learning experience for me, but I hope that like he left with knowing that like I was a person of my word, and that
Mm-hmm.
like I wasn't gonna have hard feelings just because someone realized that they didn't actually want to do this interview. Because he could have let me post it, and then he could have been like, I really hate this. I really don't like it. But he stood up for himself, and he was like, I really don't like this. And I was like, okay. Um, but so yeah, so from then on, like I really made sure I was like, are you sure? This is what I do. Please, but other than that, like, no, I mean, I stopped, working with emails from that company because it was very clear that these guys just wanted to talk about their new album. And I was like, I don't really do that. But otherwise, no, everyone else has been really great. Um, you know, if they have a time constraint, they let me know right off the bat. If there's things that they don't want to talk about, they let me know off the bat. Um, and I always tell people, like, if you say something, I don't care if it's days later and you say, can you edit that out? I will edit that out. Like, I will never be like, hey, hey, like, this isn't a gotcha. Like, just tell me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think since then I was able to learn a lot. So I haven't had any interviews where I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
good.
That is a nice thing.
Yeah.
So I was also curious, It seems like you're somewhat involved with Furnace Fest, or you have been in the past.
Yeah, not in any official capacity, but I
Okay.
do help to moderate the Furnace Fest community Facebook group, which is a place.
Well,
But
it's a
because of that,
Facebook group in 2026, so I think we
I
can make some
know,
assumptions about.
yeah. But because
What
of
could go
that,
wrong?
I I've been able to um help out at Furnace Fest. They were sold to a different company because it had to be financially,
Yeah,
and they have their own things. So this year I will likely just be hanging around. Um, but in the past I've been able to like work with vendors and stuff like that and mostly just assist. But again, it's not in any official capacity, so but I did like with whenever the lineups would come out, I would try and see who the smaller names were and try to get them on an interview. And
that's really cool.
they
Yeah.
yeah, and they would be like, "Do you work for Furnace Fest?" And I'd be like, "No." Like Blythe from No Cure was like, "Do you work for Furnace Fest or are you just a super fan?" And I was like, "Neither."
Casual fan.
Yeah,
Just
it's just it seemed like everyone had a history with Furnace Fest, especially, any hardcore bands. So it was just
Hmm.
a good talking point.
so speaking of hardcore bands, and I know that this I'm saying this as someone who just saw Dead Guy for the first time and waited 30 years. Do you think that the shift in this will be like my only other serious question, but do you think the shift in from 2020 to 2021 because of the thing that happened, the lineup shift, do you think it's more reflexive of if you go back 20 years, that exact same crowd in like a moment in time, or what have you seen since we've been going to the same one since 2021, I believe, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, how, how do you mean? Like,
2021, right? You had a lot of
yeah,
bands that had reunions, and you go back to
yeah.
2001, like
Hmm.
that was like a moment in time.
The early Furnace Fest lineups were bands that were very of the time. And then in, 2021, they were bands that were still of the time 20 years before. And since then, not including this year, because this year is a wild left turn. But the, you know, going as they moved forward, there's only so many bands that you can fit into a nostalgia fest. And after a while, when does it become? I mean, this is something that I make fun of on Hardcore Hotline all the time. Like, when does it start to become that you're only listening to nostalgia music and you're not
Hmm.
going, like, I always tell people, especially here in North Carolina, Beloved is a highly sought after band. And of course, they played, and people went to Furnace Fest to see Beloved. They were
Yeah, they did.
crazy for Beloved. I was never really into Beloved just because I was never in that specific scene. I will say specific. Um, I was, I didn't need
You
those
weren't
types of
down with the
lyrics.
Christ core.
Yes, I was like, and it wasn't that I had a problem with it. I was just kind of like, wait, what? Um, it just didn't connect with me.
Entirely fair.
And but I always tell people, Beloved right now is playing in your town. They're just playing at a show with 15 people, and you won't go to it.
Correct.
Um,
This
and
was.
and I'm guilty of that because like there's a local fest here, and a local booker here, shout out Jake, and Dylan, that he works with him, and he always knows that I will ask him, I'll be like, will the band play before 9:30 p.m.? And I get it. You know, like that's I get it. But at the same time, like I'm not searching for like I'm not waiting for a reunion for my favorite band from back when. I'm looking for them now because they exist and they're really good. And
Yeah.
if you just take a minute to just go to a local hardcore fest that I continually make fun of on Hardcore Hotline, but if you just go to them, you will find them. And maybe they're singing about something just a little different, but it's still going to hit you. You know, it's hard to continue to say, okay, here's a 3-day festival. You're going to have to take at least 2 days PTO. If you want to see the pre-shows, you're going to need to take at least 4 days PTO. You're
Yep.
going to need to spend a lot of money and you're going to have to see bands that you liked 20 years ago. And after a while, that doesn't become sustainable. So I understand why the change happened. And I know that I'm not a fan of many of the headliners for a variety of reasons, mostly because I don't listen to that type of music, but just for other reasons too. But I can't be mad at a festival built on nostalgia for not being sustainable. I just can't. And if you want a festival built on nostalgia, you're going to run into the same issues too. So you need to start branching out, even on Spotify. Just find who sounds like this. See if you like them. You don't, move on to the next band. Um, but yeah,
That's one of
so
the
that's a
things that
very
drives
long-winded
me.
answer.
Yeah. Well, you hit on something that drives me nuts about like um I remember going back. I'm originally from Connecticut. I remember going back up to Connecticut a few years ago to see With Honor and Life in Your Way.
I knew you were going to say that.
Of course, right? Who else am I gonna say?
No.
And like one, I'm friends with those dudes, right?
They're great
And
guys.
two, they're incredible human beings. You know, Todd Mackey is one of the best human beings
Yeah.
of all time. Just
Yeah. They won't
um
be on Hardcore Hotline, but I won't hold it against them too much.
oh.
I well also like how am I going to be mean to them? I've known those guys since I was like 18. Not to be like that kind of person. Like I've known them for a really long time. It's just I went to their shows when
Yeah.
I was 18, which I mean, goes to show like we're still listening to the bands.
But you know, there was like they did 2 days, right? And I was like, I had missed out grabbing tickets for one of the days, and I was like, oh man, I'm really bummed because I think it was like One Step Closer or Anxious were on one of those two. I'd have to look it up.
Well, I think it was One Step Closer because I love One Step Closer, and I was like, dang,
They
that's a good
fucking rip,
lineup. They're amazing.
right? And I was like, I pointed out to like one of my friends I was going with, like, oh man, it would have been so cool to see One Step Closer. And he gave me this like, oh, I'm sure they're fine. And I'm like, yo, they
Fuck.
rip and they're happening now. You know, we don't have to you don't have to wait around hoping that the bands we listened to in high school will get back together and like, you know, play a show. These guys are currently doing things. They're putting out new
Yes.
music
Hmm.
like that fucking rips. Right? Like it hardcore is a thing that's of the moment. You know, it's and trust me, I'm staring at like Botch and Coalesce posters on my wall. You know, I have a Have Heart one behind me. I
Yeah.
understand like and
Here
I
is
love those acts and I will never not love them, but but at the same time like yo, there's bands happening at this moment
Yeah.
and like they have energy. They're doing stuff.
Hmm.
And to ignore that because you're sad that it's not exactly the way it was 20 years ago or like it drives me insane.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and
It's yeah.
what?
I mean, I understand to some level that like that this has always been there. You know, I
Hmm.
remember when I started going to shows, there was always that like old dude in the corner that was mad that we weren't doing hardcore correctly,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
know, and he's like, "This doesn't sound like the Dead Kennedys." It's like, dude,
This
hardcore
isn't
hasn't
real
sounded that way
hardcore.
since, right? It's like,
Yeah.
man, hardcore hasn't sounded like that since the Cro-Mags, dude. Like
Who?
things
Okay, I'm
And
sorry.
evolve, they change, they grow.
yeah, and you can probably find some kids, who are who love the Cro-Mags and they want to sound just like the Cro-Mags. And they're going
Why?
to
Yeah.
because they're
No.
my like like my dad, he is the biggest Ramones fan.
Hmm.
Um and I listened to punk all growing up because that's what he listened to. But I remember growing up, and of course, you're a teenager and you're like, my dad is not cool, you're just like, yeah, what is it with parents not being cool? But I would,
Would you say that
I would,
parents just don't understand?
I hate
they
you so
just
much.
don't understand.
God damn
But
it.
there was a band that came out called the Donnas. And I
Okay.
remember and I was like really into like Bikini Kill and like, everything like that. And I was like, hell yeah. So any band that was just women, I was like, let me listen to this. So of course I go to my room and I put it on and I put it on loud. And of course, as a teenager, I think I'm doing something. Meanwhile, my dad is listening to, you know, New York Dolls in his room and he's like, why do you think I care? But anyway, he heard the
Yeah.
Donnas and he came in and he was like, who is that? And I said, it's the Donnas. And he was like, they sound like a new style of the Ramones. He was like, this is so good. And he was able to find like his new Ramones. And the same with like, Sleater Kinney came out. He listened to them. Me and my dad went to a Sleater Kinney concert together. Like, because
That
he
rules.
he
Oh
knew
yeah.
we're gonna go see of course, we are going to see Iggy Pop play with My Chemical Romance, so that he could see Iggy Pop. um, but he never he never stopped being like, well, I'm only going to listen to these guys. Does he still listen to the Ramones? Yes. Does he still, you know, dedicate the history books that he writes to the Ramones? Yes. But
Wait. Hold on. Hold on. Dedicate the history books that he writes.
yes.
Is your dad Indiana Jones? Like this is awesome. Expound on that, please.
Yeah, for all listeners. No, my dad, he just retired, but he would write books on history and foreign policy, which is everyone's favorite topics. But he would talk about race and how it affected foreign policy. And he talked about the first black diplomat in the United States, which was made into a PBS documentary. That's right.
That's really
He's
cool.
been to the State Department and everything like that. you know, yeah, I'm very proud of my dad, which my 14-year-old self would be like, "What are you talking about?" Um, but yeah, like, you know, and he didn't like when I was listening to new metal.
Yo,
And
that's we all regret that. We all regret that. It goes
yeah,
aside, we all regret that.
it's
I know.
so funny going off topic slightly. I remember, so my dad got me a ticket to see Corn because I really wanted to see them. And he got me a floor ticket, which back then were the bad seats. You didn't want to be there, you wanted to be in the seats. So it was a cheap ticket. And I remember going to the Corn concert and sitting there and being like, okay. And there was just a moment where and here's me, 13 years old, on the floor for Corn by myself. And I remember looking around and I remember feeling inside and going, I am not safe here. And I kind of didn't really listen to those bands anymore. I would, and then I started listening to
That's
like Limp Bizkit lyrics and going, wait a second. I don't think that they like women. and then watching Woodstock
Yeah.
99 on HBO and going,
Yeah.
I don't think they like
No.
women. Um, and then hearing my dad's records instead and going, wait a minute, those bands are okay with women. I think I'm going to listen to more stuff like that. So yeah, we all had our new metal time. But yeah, like, if you don't, and the moral of the story is the band that you're sad that broke up is playing Friday night to 14 people. Are you going to be number 15, or are you going to sit home and be mad that your favorite band isn't getting back together after 23 years? Which one are you
Yeah.
going to do?
Yeah.
No,
And then
I had a sorry.
no, but then you're going to say that you want to support the scene.
Mm-hmm. No, I had a period of life where I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me anymore. And then um and part of that was like living in a place where like hardcore wasn't as readily accessible and like that. But you know, then I started listening to like the Axe to Grind podcast started, and then I moved to Philly shortly thereafter,
Hmm. But yeah,
and
good
I
scene.
was like, yeah, and I was like, why would I ever stop doing a thing I enjoy?
Yeah.
Like, what is that about? It's like because I think we all have this period like it hit me in my 20s of like I'm not a child anymore and I'm going to do adult things. And then sometime around the end of your 20s, 30s, you're like being an adult is whatever I decide it means.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and you get so caught up in I mean, because you start to become yourself, in your 20s, and then you have to start taking care of yourself. And that
Hmm.
means you have to start getting a job and you have to start paying for things and you have to worry about other things and you have to and your friends start moving away and getting married and having babies. Nothing against people who get married and have babies, but you start to kind of
Many
lose
such
a
cases.
little. Yeah, you start to kind of lose who am I, and then once you start to gain that stability again, you're like, oh, that's who the fuck I am. That's right. And of course, having more stable employment helps with that, which is a privilege to anyone who has it.
Yeah.
Very true.
The you're talking about this the sounds changing and things like kind of bringing things. I forget the exact verbiage, but bringing things back around. Um, you're in North Carolina now. I spent a lot of my time in North Carolina hardcore, so
Hmm.
like Code Seven, Stretch, even though they're South Carolina, Prayer,
Yeah.
Undying, all those bands were my locals, and
Yeah.
when they went away, I was like, talk about losing a piece of yourself. I was like, oh man, I miss that part of myself, and that like when it started to come back around with other bands, like really going for that sound, it was very nice to have that rush in my 46-year-old failing body to go, no, 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 go out Tuesday night, throw spin kicks for 3 hours, scream. You just do it for you feel so much better, and it felt good. Like doing that and going to Furnace Fest reminded me of like times where I could meet new people and not worry about weird judgment. I could act like a goof. I could dance poorly, and like I don't have to worry about getting judged in like an actual nightclub where people drink and do cocaine. And I it felt nice to
Yeah.
to have that back again. It's getting that second life is what I'm saying is very important. And it's if you got it, like you said, go be number 15. I just want to throw some. I got somewhere in my heart, and I was like, I need to get this out. It's going to sound good. I hope.
It sounded good. It sounded good.
Another thing that connecting back to like you being at that Corn concert and being like, I'm I am 13 years old. I'm a young woman. I'm not safe here, right? Like one
Yeah.
of the really cool things about the fact that like this music scene has continued to evolve and change is that like now there are more women in hardcore, there are more queer people, right? There are more people of color. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm so glad that like we're not having like I remember back in 2008 I was writing for this band, and this was back when deathcore was like really popping. And like
Mm-hmm.
the amount of times, like the amount of local openers that I had to hear say awful shit about women and call everyone the F slur, right? Like, and I was still closeted, not out as
Hmm.
queer at
Hmm.
the time, and like that certainly was not helping.
I
you
was
know
posting on Lambgos. I also was not helping.
no, actively harming, some might say. And
Sorry.
it's like, but it's okay, we live and we learn. But
Yeah.
it's I'm not going to sit here and say that everything's perfect, everything's great. It's clearly not the
Right.
case.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I went out to see Zayo a few months ago, and one of the opening bands is a band called Ingest from here in
Okay.
Philly, and femme fronted band, and I was like, I wouldn't have seen this 20 years ago, and it was so cool to see, and it just makes me excited to think like, oh, we can still grow and change, and it can actually become a better place, more accepted. We don't have to hear misogynistic bullshit like just to hear a breakdown.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's interesting because you can still like I think one of the good things about Furnace Fest is that it did allow us to be like kind of goofy goobers.
Mm,
Whereas I've been to some hardcore fests where they're like, I'm not a goofy fucking goober. I'm the toughest fucking person you've ever met in your life. And I'm like, oh,
mm,
okay, that's fine, I guess. Like, I'm proud of you. I don't know. And I get real tired of the coolest, toughest guy in the room. Um, and I'd rather be in a room with everyone who's like, "Hey, I'm here to have fun and this is great." I went to a show not in my city. I usually don't like going to shows in that city because I don't know what is up with the people there, or maybe it's just my personal experiences. But like it was haywire, they were playing a cover, it was so fun. I noticed that the people around me weren't really vibing with it, and I was like, whatever. But I noticed that the girl behind me was, and I turned around and I was like, yeah, let's. And then but she was not into it, and I was like, oh, you're the toughest girl in the room, I am so sorry. And I was like, can we just like have some fun? Like it's haywire. Like what are we doing here? Why are we being the most serious people in the world for haywire and Drain? Drain has a shark booty dancing on stage. Like come on, people. Um,
I feel like I know where
yeah.
you were at for this.
I won't say it, but yeah, we yeah. But yeah, I just at this point like I see some lineups and I'm like, "Oh, this is great." And then I see where they are and I'm like, I don't want
Fuck!
to be
Mm,
there.
yeah.
And nothing against those festivals or people who go to them or anything like that. I just want a different experience because at this point in my life, like if I'm not having fun, what is the point? And I know that I
Exactly.
never look like I'm having fun at any show because I'm standing in the back with my arms crossed, looking at my phone or looking up every once in a while going, but I promise you I'm having the time of my
I
life.
I I didn't mean to get loud, but I moved funny and I pulled a ball hair, and I feel if I don't share that, people are gonna be like, "Why did he scream for no reason?"
Well, now we
Context.
know.
Now I can't not know.
I'm a sharer. My therapist says I need to do it more.
Okay,
Okay.
well, maybe you should find a different therapist. Um,
BetterHelp.com. Uh,
Well, thank you. So I also want to ask, like, so who's happening right now that is uh a few, I guess two questions here. We can make it more like, so we're going to attach this on to Adam and I just kind of going through the Furnace Fest lineup.
Okay.
So which is why we've asked about Furnace Fest a few times.
Okay. All right.
Uh, I should have said that beforehand.
That's all
If I was
right.
a professional,
You
or if I was any
know,
good at this.
we're all just doing what we can.
Um, but I'm curious, like there is a major shift there, but I'm curious if there's anybody on that lineup that you are stoked on. And I guess a more general question is like, what is new and happening now that you are really pumped on?
Yeah, let me pull up the let me pull that up and see what it looks like. Okay, so I really don't listen to I listen to Poison the Well. Spite. Spite is a great band. Um, I always will like Stick to Your Guns because I like singing along. Pain of Truth. Pain of Truth is an excellent band. Um, we have
I used to go to
Magnet.
shows all the time with their bassist Zach, like
Okay.
back like 10 years ago, and this was before he like, and he's like, dude, I'm gonna start playing bass, and like I'm gonna get like so I can be in a hardcore band, and I'm like, that rules, man, and it's so cool to see him like doing the fucking thing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
so
no,
cool,
that's awesome.
it
No, Pain of
killing
Truth,
it.
No Cure is also you know, amazing. Um Black Sheep is really good. They're a local band from Birmingham. Let's see, looking at Sunday. I've actually never listened to Bring Me the Horizon. No clue.
Uh,
Um
I could give you a very, very like biased answer if you'd like.
Uh, I've gotten other answers and I'm like, whatever. The other two, gonna move past those. Um, Throne is great. I am very excited about the number 12 Looks Like You. I know we talked about like, oh, new bands or whatever, but that one was a pull. Um, let's
yeah,
see.
I that was one of those things where I was going down the list. I was like, one of these is not like the others.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big names on this. No clue. Like I obviously everyone knows A Day to Remember. I think their stage shows are fun. I don't own any of their albums. I did buy a hoodie of theirs because it was a good hoodie, but also the funds went to Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina. Um, and I have another one of their shirts because I had Sonic on it, and I was like, oh, fun. But I don't know I don't know like anything that's not popular from them. I just like that they have like fire, confetti, beach balls, like their whole stage thing is very fun. Um, but otherwise, I think, you know, Pain of Truth is great. Obviously, Trapped Under Ice, Haywire, Drain, all those guys, Speed, those guys are all like let's do it. I want to. I'm looking on my Spotify right now because there was a band I came across and I saw they didn't have very many followers, and I was like, hold on, you guys sound great. And I'm trying to, oh my gosh, who are they? Of course, Magnitude is always great. Um, Naga Siren, who I found off of Spotify, are awesome. One Step Closer, of course. There's a band, if you like My Chemical Romance, like I do, they are called the Requiem. They played at Radio Room with He Is Legend. The nicest little guys. Really, really enjoyed them. Oh my gosh, did I not save them
Was that
or are
was
they
that the
not on
last
my
show that we did at Radio Room with Cancer Bats? Were they the opener? Yo, they stole the show for me. I love the fuck out of that band.
Yeah, and there was like maybe 25 people there and I stood right up against the stage and I sang along to every single song. I was like, I don't care how weird and creepy I look. But then later, when I went to go buy merch, their guitar player was like, oh, yeah, I saw you singing along to every single song. And I was like, sorry. I was like, I feel like it would have been different if I was like a hot 20-year-old. with like just propped up hooters, like, which is not saying anything negative about those girls. Like, prop those babies up. Like, you're doing amazing, sweetie. But instead, there's me like, and I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like your aunt over here. Um, like, yeah, like literally someone's aunt. X Weapon X, which I feel like is one of those bands that everybody likes, but other people are like, oh, who is that? Which is so strange to me. Um, let's see. Gosh, I wish I had those guys. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're not on Spotify anymore. Anyway, like these guys, they all play the same festivals together. Like, I think that they all know each other, which is again a
Hmm.
hardcore hotline joke. So if you go to one show of them, you're gonna find other guys who sound just like that. And um, it's like how I don't really listen to metalcore because they all sound the same. Apparently that doesn't matter when I listen to hardcore because I can listen to five bands that sound exactly the same and I'm like, no, they're different. Um, no, you don't understand. They're the one guy he does. No, um, no, they're the same. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. I mean, they're bands that you're not really gonna find on Furnace Fest this year. Not saying that the smaller bands, not like smaller font bands, are not good. You should definitely go and see them. Um, but they are smaller font than they usually are.
Yeah, no, I see.
Yeah.
I get it. The I guess the hype of the all the headliners versus the like the it's like it's a pyramid. It's almost like it's like a weird tear down pyramid. Uh, Speaking of smaller bands, I want to give Holder a shout out. I'm going to shout that band out every chance I get. Shout out Holder. Everyone go listen to them. Bye, sweetheart. I love you. I'm glad you married me and didn't settle. I just like to invite people into my life sometimes. It's okay to be self aware. All right.
I want to be respectful of your time. But thank you so much for doing this, for hanging out with us for an hour, and dealing with our profound inability to interview people. And yeah, before you go, is there anything you'd like to shout out? Not that you have a way bigger platform than us, so but still, anything you'd like to give some shine to?
Yeah, I mean, it's no band or specific venue in particular. I always will give a shout out to Welcome to the Family here in the Carolinas. They do an amazing job.
Yes, they do.
I am they took a year off, but I am happy to sponsor their festivals whenever I can, because they have just such a huge impact here in Charlotte and on the historic Milestone venue, which has survived this long and hopefully survive much longer. But in that vein, I do just want to continue to harp on people, um, that the hardcore scene is not buying records from 20 years ago. That's great. I'm so glad that you are continuing to support your favorite bands, but I can guarantee you they work corporate jobs now, 9 to 5, and they're just fine. The people you should be supporting are the kids getting in vans, just like those bands did 30 years ago, and showing up, pouring their heart out on a stage Thursday at 8 p.m. to whoever might be at the bar that night. Show up, um, and find your new favorite band because I can guarantee you they're there. If they're not there that night, they're playing a show with someone else who is. And you will be shocked because I remember many, many years ago, I heard about a little band called My Chemical Romance, and all of my friends made fun of me for liking the vampire song. But I saw that they were opening for American Nightmare, who at the time had to go by Give Up the Ghost, and they
Fuck.
opened for them. And I went to go see them in Virginia, and there was a small crowd of them. And Gerard Way, he wore torn jeans and a white t-shirt. And when they were done, they went to the bar and they were the nicest people. And ever since then, I thought, gosh, I hope these guys make it big.
Couple tracks, I think they did all right for themselves.
I think they did
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But,
Sold out a
you know,
stadium tour in under a minute.
Did did didn't change the genre or anything. That's a stacked lineup. That right there would have been like emotional, Adam. Like I have a feeling or two. And MCR at the same time. I'm moshing and crying the entire time. That sounds
Cry
and
moshing.
I happened to meet Mikey Way at San Diego Comic Con, and I told him about that. I was like, I saw your band, and he was like, oh my God. He was like, I remember that tour. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm really glad you're doing well. But
That rules.
yes, so your favorite band exists. They existed 20 years ago. They exist now. They just are different guys. So go see them.
Madeline, thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out with us.
Thank you guys. And I will see you on Hardcore Hotline.
Please.
and I will see you soon in the real world as well. So it'll be cool seeing you. Hopefully I won't be working and I can actually be semi-social. So thank you
All
for
right.
coming and trusting us. That's awesome of you.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.